Nicole Dunn is the director of the Open Way Mindfulness Center here in Missoula and founded the Be Here Now meditation community in 2002. Be Here Now continues to meet every Monday night. She spends her time caring for her family, volunteering, working with children, and practicing to live more mindfully and joyfully. One of her most favorite things to do is ride on her old 1976 Honda motorcycle. Please welcome Nicole Dunn.
I'm tiny, apparently, up amongst all these handsome men so far. Yes. Am I allowed to take this off? Awesome. I like to pace, and I'm super nervous. Okay, so here we go. So I am what you might call a Buddhist practitioner. And in our tradition, we have a saying that goes, where there is perception, there is deception. And so along those lines, I have this little story to offer. So last year, my husband and I had the wonderful opportunity to attend a 21-day meditation retreat at our root monastery in the south of France. And it's called Plum Village, and it's also where our root teacher resides, which is Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh. And he's often referred to as Thai by his students, and Thai means teacher in Vietnamese. And Thai is a Vietnamese Buddhist monk and has written many, many books and hundreds of poems and has led a lot of retreats and still leads retreats all over the world. And so we went over for this retreat and stayed at Plum Village Monastery. And it was our first trip overseas. And Plum Village is also home to a lot of monks and nuns in this particular tradition. And it's also a practice center for lay people, so people that are not monks and nuns. And they host retreats throughout the year in a variety of different languages, and all sorts of different events take place here. And this particular retreat attracted around 800 people from all over the world. It was an English-speaking retreat. And with the monastic community who also traveled from other monasteries of Thais around the world, we probably had around 1,000 people there. And the monastery itself is set up into 3 main hamlets, they call them. There's Upper Hamlet, Lower Hamlet, and New Hamlet. And all of us retreatants are put into these different hamlets. And they're all on different tracts of land, so they're not connected. So Upper Hamlet and Lower Hamlet are a 45-minute walk apart, and then New Hamlet, you have to be bused 20 minutes away. And on one particular day, towards the end of the retreat, we had this celebration event. And it was to celebrate the 30-year anniversary of Plum Village. So all of us in Lower and Upper Hamlet were bused over to New Hamlet, and Ty gave a teaching called a Dharma talk for around an hour and a half or so. And after his teaching, we had a chance to do what we call outdoor walking meditation, which is very slow and silent. And we went around this beautiful pond, and that day there was the first lotus flowers were in bloom that day. They were just spectacular. And then after that, we had lunch, and then there was this celebration event. And as part of that, there was this gallery exhibit set up for us to peruse, and there was these really wonderful cupcakes that I assume came from some local Parisian bakery, because they were very fine crafted little works of art. And then there was this performance that was going to be happening. So I took a seat on the grass. It was an outdoor venue, waiting for these performances to go on. And I sat off to the side, not really knowing where everyone was going to filter in. And I sat by these cool old stone Buddha statues. And as people were starting to sit down, one of my new friends and one of my roommates, Clara, from the Netherlands, came and sat by me. And as people were sitting down, we wound up having a great vantage point of not only the performance area, but then also of Thai. So he's very close, and he was kind of in this backward L shape to us, and most people were seated behind him or standing behind him. There was just a few dozen of us off to the side. And to me, it was such a treat because for me, one of the great marks of a true wise and wonderful teacher is one that's teaching all the time with their presence. And so just to simply see him clearly was quite a treat for me. He's so beautiful and graceful, and just how he interacts with the world as he's moving and sitting. And so it was pretty cool because within 1,000 people, it was kind of hard to get a clear shot of him at any given time throughout the retreat. So the first performance that went on was given by some of the nuns, and the sisters had their monastic robes on, and they were adorned with different fabrics and feathers, and some of them were dressed up as trees, and some of them were dressed up as birds, and they reenacted this poem that Thai had written, and they were so lovely to watch. They were so graceful in how they interacted with each other, and they had these speakers set up outside, and over the speakers, as they were doing this poem, acting out this poem, this music was playing. It was this oriental type of music. It was very lovely, very soft and melodic, and as they were moving, they were very slow and very mindful. And over the speakers, occasionally would come this bird noise, and it was very shrill and strange and oddly placed, and didn't make sense with what was going on with either the play or the music. It was kind of like this noise, and I'm not doing it justice at all, but it was awful. And at first my mind was like, that's a weird noise. And then as it kept happening, I started having this inner dialogue with myself, and I started saying things, again, internally, like, didn't they do a run-through of this performance and know that doesn't sound any good? And can't anyone hear that right now? Because if it were me, I would totally stop that noise. It doesn't make any sense. And, I'm having this little, chattering going on in my mind. And I'm getting irritated at this bird noise of all things, right? And so after a few more minutes, my friend kind of nudges me, my friend Clara, and she said, "Ty's making that noise." And I'm like, I get this look in my face. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "That bird noise, that's Ty." And I'm thinking, how in the world could he be making this bird noise? And so I'm just, still looking very puzzled, and she's just like, "Watch him." I'm like, okay. So I turned my attention to him, which wasn't hard to do. He was very close. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, what am I watching him for? I don't know what I'm looking for here. And after a couple minutes, I see that he turns to this little toy bird sitting in the grass next to him. And he pats the little bird, and out comes that noise over the speakers. And on his face, I see such a sweet smile. And it gave me such a sense of joy and lightness and peace. And there was also this little hint of mischief, which a Zen master can sometimes have, as if he were saying, "Ha ha, no one knows I'm making this bird noise." and in that moment, my relationship to this bird noise changed right away, like the flip of a switch, And I went from becoming really distracted and irritated by this bird noise to coming into contact with a really deep teaching. And I suddenly became aware of how distracted I was, because I wasn't aware that I was doing this. And I was aware of how beautiful a day it was. It was June. It was a beautiful, bright, sunny day. I'm sitting in the grass in the freaking south of France at a monastery, 30 feet from a Zen master, and I'm obsessing about this ridiculous bird noise of all things, right? And so I became aware of that and smiled to myself. And this is one of those teachings that I hope to continue to carry with me, moment by moment, into the future as I continue on my path of practice. Because when I take the time to look deeply, when I stop and look deeply, I see how often I think I have everything all figured out, every day. And I'll be like, hey, I know why that person's doing that, and hey, that situation, I'd totally do that differently. I don't know what they're thinking, And I think I totally have, I just have it all figured out, and I totally don't. And Ty is fond of saying that 99 percent of our perceptions are incorrect. And this to me is such an astronomical figure that I can't quite wrap my brain around it, but I'm working on it. And again, it's one of those things when I stop and I really take the time to look clearly, I see how often I create my own suffering based on my perceptions, and how it's true that perception and deception, they really do go together. You know, they're interwoven, much like the in-breath and the out-breath. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for your time.